Hello and welcome back, artists and designers. Today we're going to go ahead and start our Dia de los Muertos Calavera in Adobe Illustrator. So our goal for this part of the project is we are going to trace our template skull with some simple shapes, and we're just going to get the outline of our skull. So that's our goal in this video. So the first thing we need to do is go ahead and download this. I have that downloaded, and I have a new letter size document right here in Illustrator. And what I'm going to do before I even put this in is I'm going to go ahead and click on the rulers here in my properties panel, and I'm going to drag a center line out, and I'm just going to kind of look for the center. It doesn't have to be exactly the center here, but I'll add this in something like that so that I have that center line for me to work on here. So let's go ahead and place our image into this. So I'm going to go ahead and do File and Place, and I'm going to grab this skull. I'm going to skip the template option, and I am going to uncheck link because I do want to have this in the document so that I don't end up with any broken links. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that unchecked. And now that it's here, I'm going to go ahead and drag that skull out to be about the size that I want. So that looks pretty good. I just need to adjust, and I want to get that skull. I'm going to look and make sure that that skull is pretty much lined up on that center point. So to me, I'm looking at that nose right there. That looks pretty good. It looks like it's on that blue guideline that I had set up. So I think that looks pretty good for the skull. Let's go ahead with that skull still selected. I'm going to drop the opacity down here, maybe somewhere, do what's comfortable for you, but I'm going to go all the way down to like maybe about 20% so that I can still see it, but it's not quite as much. Once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and lock this layer out. I'm going to hit the lock icon. I'm done with my template layer, and I'm going to add a new layer down here. This is where I'm going to do the skull outline. All right. So let's dive back into this and actually start making this. We're going to work with some simple shapes here, circles, rectangles, some geometric shapes. I'm going to use a black stroke and no fill. So I'm going to turn my fill off. I'm going to grab my ellipse tool right here. It's hiding under the rectangle tool. Remember, that's right there. And I'm going to give you a little trick. Okay, when you make a circle by default, wherever you click and start dragging out, it goes from that corner. So if I start from the right and drag out, it's going to go from that corner. But if you hold down the Alt key, you can start from the center point. So I'm going to go ahead right to that guideline. You can see that pink word guide is popping up right there. And I'm going to go right here and just take my best guess. I'm going to start dragging out, but if I hold the Alt key down, you'll notice that it centers right on that line so that I can make that circle pretty much match up with what I have here. Now I think I need to lower it a little bit, so I'm going to go right here and let go of the mouse first and then the Alt key. And then I'm going to go ahead and just scale this down. Again, trying to make sure that that center line stays there and get this to be about the shape that I want for my skull. It doesn't have to be exact. You know, we're not making a realistic skull. This is a sugar skull, Dia de los Muertos skull, so it's okay if it's a little bit off. Now, if I do this, if I hold the Alt key down, again, when I grab the sides, it's going to keep it in the center. If I don't hold the Alt key down, I'm pulling it off the center point. So that Alt key is going to come into play again. Okay, there we go. I've got my circle lined up on there. Let's move to the next part. Let's do these cheeks. So I'm going to use a circle again for the cheeks. I know it's kind of square. I could use a square, but I'm just going to try a circle. So I'm going to go ahead and drag a circle out here and just get it to be about the size that I want for the cheek. I'll adjust that later, but let's leave that circle there like that. Now, I could try to copy and paste this one over on the other side, but I know that it's going to be a little bit off. So I'm going to use another trick. I'm going to go ahead and use the reflect tool, which is probably hiding right under this rotate tool here. And this is going to allow me to pick a point to reflect on and then repeat the shape somewhere else. So I'm going to, of course, pick my guideline here. I'm going to go over with the reflect tool. So this is selected, reflect tool, and I'm going to hold the Alt key down again, or Option on Mac, and I'm going to click once, and it's going to pop up and say, how do you want to reflect this? Well, I want to reflect it on that vertical line of symmetry. So I'm going to click that, and you'll see it kind of pops over and previews where it's going to go. And then what you want to make sure is you hit copy. If you don't hit copy, it's just going to move your original shape if you hit OK. So I'm going to hit copy, and it's going to put that other circle right over on the other side, and those should be precisely lined up on that axis of symmetry here. Let's go ahead and do the jaw at this point. Now, I could do a rectangle and use that rectangle, but I also want to get these angles. So I'm going to try, I'm thinking about this, and I'm going, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I use a hexagon, that might work a little bit better. So I'm going to try my polygon tool, and I'm going to go ahead and just click once. Let's kind of start maybe like right here. So I'm going to hold Alt and click, and I want 8 sides. So I'm going to set 8 sides. I'm going to hit OK, and it makes a octagon right here for me. So I obviously want to stretch this out. Again, I'm going to hold down that Alt key, and that's going to keep it in the center point. And I'm looking at that lower jaw and trying to kind of get that lined up where I want it. So I think I'm looking at these lines, they're following through here and kind of matching up with the angle of the jaw, and everything is overlapping over here. I'm going to merge this all together in the next step. So I think that's pretty good. I think I'm going to leave it there. So let's go ahead at this point. We got 4 shapes: big circle, 2 smaller circles, and our octagon right here. Let's get these merged together so that we get our basic skull outline. Select all these guys. We're going to grab our shape builder right here, and we're going to start dragging over to merge all of our shapes together into one big shape. And we should be left with one single outline of our skull. So if I crank this up a little bit, see the stroke a little bit better here. Well, not until I select it, and then I can crank it up. You can kind of see that stroke there a little bit better. Okay, so there's my basic shape of the skull. The jaw is very squared off, so I would like to go ahead and round those out. So you know you got those anchor points here. Everything is selected right now. Let's see what happens if I just round all of them out at the same time. So if I grab that corner, kind of max it out, it's not letting me go very far. And I think the reason is because this corner right here, if we take a look at that, the closer the anchor points are together, like these two are very close together, it's only going to let me round that a small amount. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's round it out as far as it'll let me. So it's maxing out at that little curve right there, but that's okay. I can now select the lower ones and I can round this out a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and take my direct selection, again the white arrow. I'm going to drag it over those lower anchor points, and let's see if I can round those out a little bit more, because there's more room between them. I can go all the way up to totally round, or if we want to keep it a little bit more squared off, I think that to me looks pretty good. So I drag those kind of corners in there to get that a little bit more rounded. Now, could I do that up above here? Let's take a look. Could I select this corner and hold down Shift and select this corner? And could I drag these anchor points a little bit to round that area out? I go all the way out to here. That's maybe a little too much. So let's round it out maybe a little bit like that. And I think I'm happy with that. So I think that looks pretty good to me. If I hide my original skull, zoom back out here. If I hide my original skull, I think that's a good base shape for our skull. Again, it's not 100% realistic, but that's a great place to get me started. So to backtrack what we did here before we move on to the next video, I'll just kind of backtrack. We rounded out our corners. Before that, we used our shape builder to merge all of our shapes together here. And our shapes were our circle. We used the reflection tool to flip that circle. We created a octagon shape, kind of got that into the right area. We built it all together, rounded out the corners appropriately, and hopefully we're happy with our finished shape of our skull. So I hope you were able to follow along with that, and in the next video we'll start adding a couple of the features inside of the skull, and then we'll get to our design. All right, good luck. See you in the next video.